I hope that AI can help us expand opportunities and create more stories, but not replace humans who are at the heart of the creative process.
Are you even real right now?
Huh? Yeah, exactly.
This could be a real avatar.
Move aside.
Can Christian, can you move something in front of your face so that we can prove this is one of the tests? This is one of the tests that we have to do to make sure that we're talking to the real Christian Fraser.
I'll have to speak to Christian about that. We'll see if we can do that. Hello, welcome to AI Decoded. Artificial intelligence is transforming film faster than most of us realise, not just in the special effects we may or may not notice on the screen, but in the vast array of tools that are reshaping the writing, the casting, the creation of lifelike images. The change is unmistakable, whole workflows are changing, and entirely new creative possibilities are opening up. We're going to look at that from two different perspectives this week. Dr. Stephanie Hare is here. Also, Marc, who's been making his own Hollywood production this week. It's a sort of Game of Thrones meets Dante's Peak. We'll let you critique it later in the programme. But also with us this week, the actor Calum. You may have seen him in the Disney series Austin and Ally. Calum, welcome to the programme.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Now, Calum is the co-founder of an AI company called Two-Way, and they have launched an app that creates AI avatars of yourself, maybe a digital twin, of a loved one, or of a historical figure that you can interact with in real time. It's also being marketed as a way to preserve and give everlasting life to the older members of the family that could soon die. The ad they've just launched, at the last count, had 41 million views. Take a look.
He's getting bigger. See?
Oh, honey, that's wonderful.
Kicking like crazy.
He's listening. Put your hand on your tummy and hum to him. You used to love that.
It feels like he's dancing in there.
Oh, honey.
Mom, would you tell Charlie that bedtime story you always used to tell me?
Once upon a time, there was a baby unicorn who didn't know he knew how to fly. This baby unicorn was like your mom because she didn't know that she knew how to fly, but she knew how to do all kinds of fabulous things.
Hi, Grandma.
Hey, Charlie. How was school today?
It was really fun. I made this crazy shot in basketball.
I don't really care that much about basketball. What about the crush?
Stop. Grandma, stop talking.
Just tell me one thing.
Look who's going to be a great grandmother.
Oh, Charlie. Oh, congratulations.
She says that he's been kicking a lot, though. Like, a little too much.
Tell her to put her hand on her tummy and hum to him. You loved that.
You would have loved this moment.
You can call anytime.
Calum, that has stirred quite the debate. So let's begin with what the app does and who might want to use it.
So during the SAG-AFTRA WGA strike, I became very fearful of AI. I didn't want my likeness or my work being used without my permission. And I also noticed that a number of chatbots were posing as myself and I was getting deepfaked online. I felt very out of control. And so my co-founders and I decided the best way to combat this issue was to create a platform that puts each person in control and protects your digital AI presence. So in the Two-Way app, only you can make an avatar of yourself. You own your name, image, and likeness and all of your data. We don't train your data and we don't sell your data. We are here to amplify your presence, not replace you.
How does that work? How is your avatar protected, and how do you differentiate it from maybe another Calum that's out there?
So we can't stop all deepfakes online. What we can do is create the verified check mark next to your avatar that has your information in it. So in the Two-Way app, you record yourself for 3 minutes, and then you tell your avatar what you want your avatar to know. We call it the brain of the avatar. And you can upload text documents. You can speak into it as a voice recording. You can transcribe videos or podcasts. You can upload, if you've written a book, you can upload that book into your avatar's brain. And this means that it's a closed data set where it only accesses the information that you want it to know and nothing that you don't want it to know. So it does accurately represent who you are.
And presumably from your perspective, you can commercialize that, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so I have millions of followers on social media, but about 50% of the people that have watched the programs I've been on for the last 20 years are in countries where English isn't necessarily the first language they speak. And I've always felt very guilty because I can only speak English and a little bit of French because I'm Canadian. And but I've always wanted the ability to be able to interact with my fan base on a global scale in every language. Two-way provides that ability where I can now speak 80 different languages, speak in real time, and communicate in my authentic voice, but in their native language.
Right, but the reason this has suddenly burst into the limelight, which is great for you, is that there's a whole conversation about talking to an avatar of the dead. Okay, because that raises some really huge questions about consent, grief, and how we process grief, and ethics. Whether we want to be an eternal avatar over which, when we're gone, we have no agency. So, how do you reassure people about that?
Well, first of all, I understand that people have a fear of AI, and there's a lot of reasons to be afraid. To be frank, I'm afraid. That fear is partly what inspired us to develop this company in the first place. But just to be clear, you cannot create an avatar of anyone who has already passed on 2A because that person doesn't have agency over what their avatar says. We're not a grief tech platform. The value is not for the generation necessarily who's grieving the person who's passed. The value is really for the generations who would never have had a chance to meet that person. So I created my avatar. I inserted all of this information and my thoughts, my perspectives, and life stories into its brain. And so when I do pass away, my great, great, great grandchildren will be able to ask me questions and understand who I was. I would love to be able to go back to my ancestors 200 years ago who are in the UK and ask them what it was like growing up in England in the year 1825. I don't even know a lot of their names, let alone deep information about who they were or their political perspectives. And as time goes on, we often forget these family stories and important information about our ancestry. But this platform provides an opportunity for us to tell our own story for generations to come.
I can see real value in that, Stephanie. Do you have concerns about it, though?
Well, it sounds to me like maybe the way that it's been understood by the market is slightly inaccurate. This isn't grief tech, as you're saying, or death tech. This is about legacy. And that's for a person who's alive today to decide on their own if they wish to use this kind of technology to leave a legacy that they control while they're alive. And it's something that they're sort of passing on, therefore, to live on in perpetuity, which can also be monetized. That I have less of a problem with. It sounds quite interesting to explore. And I can imagine for instance, people who, yes, would love to be able to leave something for grandchildren, great grandchildren, for history projects, for researchers. It'd be really interesting actually to explore what you could do with that. I think if people are thinking about it in terms of the dead, which is what I think a lot of the criticism was saying, you can see why that's going to raise concerns and processing grief, and do people have the psychological capability of that? But that doesn't sound like what you're doing at all. So have you just been misunderstood?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, when we released the ad, it was a part of a number of pieces of content that we were uh, posting. And a lot of our content leading up to this was actually about the education platform and about ways that you can monetize your own avatar, and for celebrity interactions, or for experts wanting to monetize their information. And this happened to be another use case that we saw as being quite valuable for people who don't necessarily come to the table with a fan base or an expertise they're looking to monetize. But it allows a reason for everybody to create an avatar themselves, because we all have a story that's worth telling, and we all have future generations that are going to be interested in hearing those stories.
The only issue I can see with this, Mark, is I might want to leave an avatar for one of my loved ones, but does it risk trapping that loved one in the grief once I'm gone? Does it prolong it rather than helping them through it?
That's a really big question, and I can sort of see where the confusion around this tech has come from. Having watched the ad and having watched some of the other stuff around this, the ad itself has those sort of echoes of an episode of Black Mirror, which has been brought up again and again and again in the reporting around the technology. And I can see both sides of the argument. About a decade ago, I did a story with USC, who were recording testimony of Holocaust survivors, and they recorded thousands and thousands of hours worth of this testimony. And at the time, they were using it to create holograms, and they were interactive holograms, very, very simply allowing people to interact with them, and they would tell them their stories of what their lives were like, and they would recount their lives and recount their experiences during the Second World War, and they were sort of one of the last generations of people that were living able to do this. So the value in capturing an historical record or capturing a record of just somebody's life, absolutely, I can completely understand where that's coming from, and it might be useful or interesting to do similar things with contemporary politicians or with with individuals, with ourselves. But I can see where people have got very, very upset about it, and there has been quite a lot of upset online, and it seems like the product has perhaps been mischaracterized. That notion that somebody might use an avatar, that you have no agency in how that avatar is used after you're dead, that when you're no longer with us, it might say something that the living version of you might never say. But these sorts of ideas, these sorts of notions, they're part of popular culture, they're part of TV shows, they're part of movies. And when we see technology like this, we latch on to those ideas and those notions, and they start to sort of feed into and bleed into. It's a very difficult argument to sort of break down.
Can I just ask in terms? So again, I'm hugely fascinated by the user experience, but once I'm training the avatar, Calum, and then it's obviously on my phone, and I'm speaking to it regularly, and then I might be knocked over by a bus. I've not given people permission to use the avatar. So what happens then? I mean, it may be my daughter wants it then at that point. So how does that transfer take place?
In terms of if you've passed?
Yeah. I mean, it's all there. I've recorded it on my phone. Bang, something happens. And my daughter says, actually, I want Dad's avatar. I want Dad with me. How do you deal with that?
So it defaults to the person who is in charge of the estate.
Okay.
They ultimately get to be the person who controls that. Unless you put in your will that you specifically don't want it to be continuing to stay on the platform.
We often joke on this program, Calum, about Christian Fraser being replaced. In fact, some are even campaigning for it. But who knows? Maybe I could have a digital twin. Maybe a digital twin that could play this role, so I can go and play more golf. I don't know. I'm not wholly averse to it.
Are you even real right now?
Huh? Yeah, exactly.
This could be a real avatar.
Move aside.
Christian, can you move something in front of your face so that we can prove this is one of the tests? This is one of the tests that we have to do to make sure that we're talking to the real Christian Fraser.
I'll have to speak to Christian about that. We'll see if we can do that. Let's move on and talk about the industry at large, because Marc, as we already know, is a wannabe filmmaker. And when he makes it, he has promised Stephanie and I a cut. We'll get a cut of the proceeds. Tell us what you've been up to this week, Marc.
Well, this is a project that actually I've been working on for quite some time. They've been testing and trying out a variety of different video generation tools. And I've been working with a feature film director. And the beauty of that is that we've been able to discover how useful some of these tools might be in feature films, in the making and production of feature films. We've made our own mini scene, if you like, a scene from an exciting action movie as a bit of a test. We can show that to you now. We've got a package which chronicles our journey with a variety of different movie making tech.
AI tools are evolving fast, promising that with just a few prompts, you can build entire cinematic worlds from scratch. What once cost tens, if not hundreds of thousands of pounds in crew and equipment can now be done with just a laptop. But does this new creative freedom pose a serious threat to jobs in the film industry? To find out, I asked Benjamin Barfoot, director of last year's acclaimed psychological horror movie, Daddy's Head, to put the latest AI tech,
so here we are with Marc, just one simple camera. Action.
Including runways Aleph and VO3, to the test and to document the results. AI like this offers a world of potential for movie makers, but there is a flip side.
I mean, the first thing I tried to do with this software was just, do something large scale that would cost a lot of money. But it was making all sorts of strange mistakes. I mean, for one, it just constantly wanted to make Marc white. Originally, I was trying to make a dragon in the background, but that failed miserably. So I decided to go for a volcano, which it managed to do. But in the end, just to get 10 working shots, I had to do 150 shots. And the reason for that is because there are no controls or tools beyond prompting. It's so annoying. There's just so much interpretation with prompting, it's random.
Ben, working with AI to try and make films, what for you was the biggest challenge?
They're trying to make it accessible to a consumer level, like anyone can do this. But there's no control or reasoning that you can look at. It's so random, it's really hard to control. What it's doing at the moment is it gets rid of you and makes you again, but it lights you in the way you've asked to do it. But who you're coming out as, I'd be looking going, is that Marc? And then it's like, was that his performance? What actors, big Hollywood actors, you'd be like, we're going to make a movie like this, by the way, but every single performance that you've done is going to sort of be destroyed and then remade.
Which is nuts when you think about it. That's absolutely crazy. But one of the interesting things you said, while making the film with me, it tried to change my ethnicity all the time.
Constantly, yeah, constantly.
The model's attempts at continually changing my ethnicity highlight the issue of bias in AI training datasets.
So, slowly tracking forward, now you're staying on all...
Working on set, how does this experience compare?
You rely on your crew trying out different lights, different costumes, all the details, and tweaking the image. You have no level of control when you're doing anything like that with AI at all. There's no one to really explain the rules as to what you're doing. As a director, you're getting no feedback. You're just going, you're just lost. You're sort of going, I think I know, whereas with human beings and crews, they will describe to you why they've chosen it, why it works, and you can discuss it, versus what I was doing with you, and it's you kind of go like, oh, it's done it wrong again. Like, why has it done it wrong again? It's like, yeah, that's okay, but what brilliant directors are going to be wanting to work like this, watching endless seeded generations of things going, I'm making a movie, I'm making a movie, I'm making that one, it's like...
It's an evolving art form.
Yeah, and that's what I mean is I see in the future that technology slowly integrated into a hybrid model of where we are with traditional filmmaking as well. But we're just going to be wanting to work with a brilliant script, brilliant actors, and brilliantly directed. It's never going to change.
Okay, nice and still, please, team.
AI and film, a work in progress then. Human creativity and skill remain the gold standard. For now.
The Oscar is yours, Marc. The Oscar is yours. I wasn't fully aware until I watched that what the ratio of prompt to success look like. It's very labor intensive, isn't it? If it takes 150 attempts to get 10 working shots of film, then the question is why? What is preventing AI from producing more consistent and more reliable content?
It's the way in which the models work. They're just, it's how they interpret what we tell them or what we ask them to do via prompts. And at the moment, it's a very, very random process. And it's almost through luck rather than design that you end up with something that is useful to you, that's the shot that you intended to create. And I've discovered that by using quite a few of the different models over the last few months, that it's a happy accident a lot of the time when you arrive where you want to be. And that limits the use in certain circumstances. But I have to say that the kit is getting better all of the time.
Calum, your other job, beyond two-way, of course, is on screen. And I wonder if you are starting to detect a change in the industry. I mean, there we've got Marc sitting in a BBC studio, feigning frostbite, who can quickly be set anywhere in the world. And I presume that will reduce budgets, it will cut costs. But does that lead to inferior movies? How does the industry evolve, do you think?
So throughout history of entertainment, every technological shift, whether it's from film to digital or the rise of streaming, has widened access and allowed more storytellers to share their voices. And AI has the potential to continue that progress, but we have to use it responsibly. And at the center of the industry are the people who physically make the film and TV shows possible, from the actors, the production crews, writers, casting, directors, producers, studio executives. And these are roles that can't be swapped out or automated without potentially sacrificing the soul of storytelling. And protecting these jobs isn't just about preserving livelihoods, it directly impacts the quality of what audiences see. And when professionals are empowered to do their work in film and TV shows, they can simply be better stories told on screen. And so if we want to keep the industry vibrant and innovative and alive, we have to protect the people who make it work. And I hope that AI can help us expand opportunities and create more stories, but not replace humans who are at the heart of the creative process.
Stephanie, do you have a view on why AI has these bias issues, and how do we make the technology more accurate and more inclusive?
Well, one of the root problems is the training data on which so many AI tools is trained. It's not diverse enough. And so it becomes tricky because you would have to say we need to get more voices, more faces, more representation of the full spectrum of humanity and train on that. That's one way to solve it. What it doesn't allow for, though, is for people who perhaps want to be more private, more discreet, who maybe don't necessarily want to participate in this AI world. So that there's a number of reasons why this is all so skewed, right? So some people are going to want to be part of a training set precisely to solve this problem, and they'll want to have avatars and they want to be on social media and having lots of fans. For other people, maybe that's just not their personality, or they might be protecting themselves because not all risks are equal. So women get a lot more harassment, for instance, online, and they are also far more victims of deep fake technology than men. So
I don't fully understand that though, Marc, because I mean, the people designing AI, okay, are all in the States, but the people who are using the general purpose AI are a whole mix of nationalities and ethnicities uploading things to these LLMs. Isn't it supposed to reflect back at us how we look and how we interact with it?
I think it's reflective of the way in which the models have been trained, and I think it's perhaps reflective of the companies behind the training of these models more than it is the user base, and that's why we see these these issues around bias that occur in different ways and manifest in different ways.
We do invite, Calum, questions from our viewers. And there is one that's been sent in by Trev, who watched a preview of a 12-minute short we aired last week on the programme. It had been made by One Day. And Trev asks, and it's the right question to put to you as an actor, I've been pondering on writing a small-scale script and producing a promo for it. It's all very new to me. I watched your episode with the clip Midnight Drop from One Day Studios. Brilliant. I appreciate the level of production in it wasn't cheap, but what advice could you give me, a total beginner, to produce a short piece with AI?
The key of storytelling is story. And so I think that at the end of the day, AI is a tool that you can use. But no matter what the story is, ensuring that story is of quality is the most important piece. I mean, for Toy Story, I loved the CG animation in Toy Story, but if it was hand drawn, I would have also loved that story as well. If it was done live action, I would have loved that story because the story mattered. And that's also where it comes back to the people working in the industry being such a vital part of that process, because a story isn't just told by the writer, it's told by hundreds of people collectively collaborating. I also understand that not everybody has access to 100 person crew and funding as well. So I understand that there is quite a balance in that process of making sure that we can allow storytellers to tell their stories without the burden of massive budgets and approval, but also protecting people in the industry. But if you're starting out and this is a tool that you can use to get your story told, the thing that I would just encourage you to do is really focus on that story, because at the end of the day, AI is just a tool and stories are the things that will last forever.
Wow. Just before we go, Calum, is it true that you started your career at the BBC?
I did, yeah. It was a mini series called I Was a Rat. It was with Brenda Fricker, Tom Conti, and
I
Ned
Was
Beatty.
a Rat?
I Was a Rat, yeah. It was a Philip Pullman novel that they adapted into a mini series. And I really attribute my career to the BBC, because if I hadn't had that opportunity, I likely would not be continuing to act or be talking to you today.
Get away. Full circle. We've gone full circle. coming
Absolutely.
back to the BBC. Well, you're very welcome to come back again, Calum, anytime. It's been really good having you on the programme. Thank you very much. Thank you to Stephanie as well, as ever, and to Marc. Really interesting film, Marc, again this week. Just a quick final thought. If you would like to get in touch with any of us about the things that you're seeing, it is AI Decoded at bbc.co.uk. Send us your thoughts on the show about ideas you want to explore. And if you'd like to rewatch any of this episode or any future episodes, then it's there on the BBC YouTube playlist, also on the iPlayer as well. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.